Right, good. Welcome, everybody. So this is one of the most important workshops we have. Love doing it. Hope with all my heart and soul that you really get something out of this. Really teaches us how our body works and what makes a difference in the quality of our lives in terms of our health and happiness. How that works. All right. So there we go. So we have a safety pin here. Hold on. We got one right here. Giant safety pin. So I have a question. Does a safety pin work better open or closed?
It's closed.
Closed, right? It doesn't work when it's open. And I love telling the story. I always tell the same story with this workshop. That when I was a kid in junior high school, and all of a sudden I came from kind of a quiet, nice neighborhood, and all of a sudden I was like all the crazy Brooklynish, you know, and all these girls used to walk around with safety pins open, and while you were going up on the staircase, they used to prick you. Scary. It was pretty scary. So anyway, safety pin open works much better. Closed.
He's still traumatized.
Yeah, that's what traumatized to this day. It's pretty scary, you guys, let me tell you. But anyway, definitely looks better. Closed, right? When it's open, you get two bullets. Right?
If it's a diaper.
Yeah. Oh. So it works by being
Showing his
connected.
age.
All right. So
Safety
what
pins and measures.
are we talking about? What does this have to do with anything? All right. So this part represents the brain. This part represents the body. Are the brain and body connected?
Yes,
By what?
nerves.
Nerves, right? By nerves. So does the brain send messages to the body?
Mhm.
And that's called efferent. So the brain sends messages to the body to tell the body what to do, right? But I have a question. How does the brain know what to do to tell the body what to do? Who tells the brain what's going on out in the outside world?
Body.
Body. And what part of the body would you say?
All of it.
Well, what part of our nervous system? The senses, right? So it could be touch. You touch something hot, it sends a messages to your brain. So the body sends a message to your brain, hot. And then the brain sends a message to the body. Put your hand away. Sometimes it takes you all. Exactly. We're going to talk about that. So then the messages from the body to the brain are called afferent. So this constant feedback. You know, let's say you eat a slice of pizza, right? And taste buds sending messages to the brain. Hey, you eat a pizza, you're going to need special enzymes to digest that pizza. It sends messages to the brain, and then the messages sends that enzyme to the stomach, sends the messages to the stomach to digest. Make sense? Right. So what happens? What do you think happens when all of a sudden the brain and the body can't go back and forth like that? You're not getting those messages.
Doesn't work right.
Doesn't work right. Now, what is this break here in the nervous system? What we call this in chiropractic when there's nerve interference and the brain and the body aren't communicating.
Subluxation.
Subluxation, exactly. Right? So, we are constantly adapting and responding to the demands. And what happens to us in our lives happens to everybody. We're under constant barrage of stress. Constantly. We have to adapt and respond to what's going on in our world. Right? The difference is not what happens to us, but stuff happens and how we deal with it. So every time, just to walk, there are millions of messages come from the brain to the body and the body back. Just to keep us upright, just to keep us balanced. And then there's ligaments that tighten, ligaments that loosen, and muscles that tighten. And do you think about it? No, you just walk. Right? But there's this constant message back and forth. And what happens when we start walking faster? How does our body have to adapt and respond?
Heart speeds up.
Heart speeds up, right? Pumps more blood because we need more energy. What else happens?
Breathe harder.
Breathe faster, right? Need more oxygen. So what happens if we have a subluxation in the area that's telling the brain that it needs more oxygen and it doesn't?
Get dizzy.
We don't get enough oxygen without function. All right? Or it could affect how our heart, it could, any million things. So subluxations mess with that whole ability of us to be able to adapt and have a setback. So subluxations restrict our ability to be able to adapt and respond to stress and all of the demands of our lives. All right. So here we need that connection. We need the brain and the body to be connected. All right. So now when they're connected, they're able to what? Communicate, right? Once they're able to communicate, then they're able to coordinate what needs to be done. That's what gives us health. It's that simple. Once this mechanism breaks down, that's going to affect our immunity, our immune system works, our digestive system works, our cardiovascular system works. Once we're not able to adapt and respond, muscles get weak or muscles get tired, energy isn't flowing. The messages aren't flowing. So our bodies work by being connected. So, years ago, I was a ski patrolman. Now my son is a ski patrolman. Proud of that. That's my son, ski patrolman. In fact, twice I was skiing with him and he was on patrol. And there were two collisions that people hit their heads. And first thing that you look at, so I do this, first thing you look at is to make sure that the airway is not stuck. The person's getting out, that their tongue will go back, or something to get alive. Second thing you notice is the breathing. Next thing that you look at, right, is to make sure that there's a clear communication from the brain to the body, neurological assessment. Because what happens if you move somebody and one of the vertebrae fractures? It's not good. It's not good. The nervous system runs the whole rest of the body. That's not working. It causes causes serious, serious damage. Okay? So they're not connected. They can't communicate. The nervous system can't communicate. So that's a subluxation. It's that lack of connection. Brain and body can't communicate. They can't coordinate. So chiropractic adjustments are connectors to the brain and the body. So I'm going to just explain a little bit about what happens with subluxation so you have a better understanding of the whole thing. All right. So what happens here is that when you have a subluxation, these nerves don't just go. Let's say this nerve goes to your stomach, let's say. Right? But also there's a feedback loop that goes to what's called the sympathetic part of the brain, the limbic system. And what that does, it puts the body into a fight, flight, stress response. So when that happens, does that loosen the body or tighten the body? Tighten, right? When you go into fight or flight, everything tightens up more, which is going to do what to the subluxation? Worse. Makes it worse. All right. Now, the other thing that happens when we are in that stress response, how do you feel like we might? You ever hear, in fact, we were talking about today in the news, that we see the world more as we are, not as it is. So if we're stuck in the stress response, in the fight or flight, how do you think we perceive the world? As a nice, shiny, pretty place? Or is it kind of scary, hostile place?
Negative and hostile.
Negative. How are we going to look at the people around us in terms of, are they going to annoy us more, or are we going to love them more?
Really annoying.
So could it affect our relationships? Might we be more defensive with the people around us? Okay. So that's, and what is that going to do to our nervous system?
Make it worse.
Make it even worse. So we get stuck more in fight or flight. Right? Now, in terms of our immunity, we're in a stress response. Do you think our immune system is stronger or weaker? Weaker. Does anybody know why?
Body has to put all its energy into, the primal thing if you're escaping the danger, and can't worry about any of the other functions.
I don't know if people could hear that there, but Matt said it exactly. Right? That if we're in survival, the body, all the energy is going into that primal, just trying to survive, takes the energy away from the immune system. And you ever notice that you get sicker when you're stressed? Well, people sometimes really get sick when they have stress.
I have extreme stress, and then I've got like sick the next day from a certain ex-girlfriend.
We won't mention any names.
You know,
All right.
but obviously I have we all have parts and everything. We can't, whenever you point a finger, you always got,
Point back yourself. That's the point back at you, right? The three. All right.
sometimes it can be unbalanced, but.
All right. So this has a global effect on our whole body with subluxation. Right? So it's not like it just affects where the nerve goes, but it causes the whole body tank with stress. So it's become one big subluxation. And that's the thing is, do we want to live our lives stuck in this stress response? No.
What about when, like, with certain things, close people or family, like I know this with say, like, if it's with my mother, or
Oh, why not? Let's talk about mom.
Okay, we'll talk about your mother. Your mother stresses me out. No. No, but
My mother's so stressful, she stresses you out. No.
but it's interesting.
Oh, of course, our family always stresses us.
But it's where we're that extra thing because we're close from reason. It can be like stuff we could take from other people
We can't take.
or certain, certain people. I don't know what that's.
I'm not a psychologist, so I could give you my ideas, but you. All right, so problem. Right? being unconnected. Solution. In other words, subluxations are bad. Adjustments are good. So I'm gonna close, and I close with this a lot. All right, because we see this constantly. You know, one of the pleasures of having a pediatric practice is that when you work on newborns, you see things change like that. You see how subluxations affect the nervous system. And it's black and white. And we actually, this week, we had a little baby who came in, who the mother said, well, he seems okay. He just sleeps all the time. But when he's not sleeping, he's crying. Does he have a laugh, a smile? No. But at least he's quiet while he's sleeping. Right? So to me, when someone's sleeping all the time or crying, they're sleeping all the time because they're cut off. They just don't.
Can't deal with
They
it.
can't deal with it, so they just go to sleep. Right? And then they're crying because they're just so uncomfortable and living that stress response. The baby's crying all the time. And you could see how he was locked up. He was locked up. And Justin had subluxations of C1 all the way up at the top and down in his sacrum and in his skull. Same baby. Never, I think she ever saw him smile or laugh. Connection between the brain and body came alive. He became alive. So smiling happy baby. Like that. And how often do we see that?
A lot.
A lot. All right. So, you know, it's funny, you know, we have adults who will find out that, hey, they feel much less stress, you know, stress less, they have less anxiety, they don't have panic attacks anymore. Not everybody, you know, but a lot of people. And sometimes it's just not quite as obvious. And it takes time before you start seeing those changes. And it's not like those little babies. But it's a wonderful thing to see. It really wakes me up as a chiropractor to you know, what is that we're able to do and help people. This is great. So, you know, if you know anybody, not just babies, who are having trouble adapting and responding to the demands of life, it's not just about the neck pain. Let me know. We have your stitches. Have them come in. We'll check and see if it is. So thank you, everybody. Love you. And we'll see you next time. I'll be putting this on YouTube tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.
Good night.
All right, that was good.
All right, I'm not a psychiatrist.